Welcome to Streaming News Network, where we deliver balanced reporting with the facts that matter. Evening Edition by J. Claude McDaniel. News without the hype and biased reporting. Please like and subscribe.
This is J. Claude McDaniel with Streaming News Network. President Donald Trump has removed the remaining members of the United States Election Assistance Commission, leaving the independent federal agency without any active commissioners. According to reports, the commission's two Democratic members were notified that their appointments had been terminated immediately, while the remaining Republican commissioner was permitted to resign. The agency's fourth commissioner had already stepped down earlier this year. The Election Assistance Commission was created to help state and local election officials improve election administration, develop voting system guidelines, distribute federal election funding, and provide election resources across the country. With no commissioners currently serving, the commission is unable to take official action until new members are nominated by the president and confirmed through the established appointment process. Federal law requires that commissioners be selected with recommendations from congressional leaders of both major political parties, and no more than two commissioners may belong to the same political party. The administration has not yet announced when nominations for new commissioners will be submitted. This is J. Claude McDaniel with Streaming News Network. A former police officer in DeKalb County, Georgia, has been charged following the fatal shooting of a 19-year-old man during an attempted arrest. State investigators say former officer Derek Harris Jr. accidentally discharged his firearm while trying to handcuff Seth Jaden Eccles, who was lying face down on the ground and complying with commands. Authorities say Harris was holding a firearm in one hand and handcuffs in the other when the weapon fired, striking Eccles. Earlier that day, federal investigators had questioned Eccles in connection with the armed robbery of a postal carrier. After learning he had an active arrest warrant, law enforcement began searching for him. Officers later located him after reports of a suspicious person moving through residential backyards. Eccles was transported to a hospital, where he later died from his injuries. Harris has been charged with involuntary manslaughter, a felony, and reckless conduct, a misdemeanor. Court documents allege his actions represented a serious departure from the standard of care expected under the circumstances. The DeKalb County Police Department announced that Harris has been terminated, citing violations of law. Officials say the investigation remains active, and the case will be presented to the district attorney for review. This is J. Claude McDaniel for Streaming News Network. A new report is drawing attention to the use of educational materials created by the Southern Poverty Law Center in teacher preparation programs across the United States. The report, published by education watchdog group Defending Education, says researchers reviewed 100 colleges of education and found that the organization's Learning for Justice program and social justice standards are incorporated into teacher training in 38 states. According to the report, the materials appear in required education courses, teacher handbooks, lesson planning assignments, student evaluations, and professional development programs. Researchers argue these resources influence how future kindergarten through 12th grade teachers are prepared for the classroom. The report identifies several universities where the standards are included in coursework or teacher evaluations and also cites graduate programs, state education initiatives, and federally funded projects that reference the materials. Supporters of the report contend that teacher preparation programs should remain free of political bias and encourage a broad range of viewpoints. The Southern Poverty Law Center has not publicly responded to the report's findings. The report comes as the organization continues to face federal scrutiny and congressional oversight involving separate legal and financial matters. Meanwhile, the United States Department of Education reiterated that it does not mandate school curricula and said curriculum decisions are primarily made at the state and local levels. This is J. Claude McDaniel for Streaming News Network. A court in Poland has sentenced a Russian husband and wife to prison after convicting them of spying for Russia's intelligence services and transmitting information that prosecutors said was harmful to Poland's national security. Authorities say the couple was arrested in July of 2024 and remained in custody throughout the investigation and trial. Court proceedings began in January of 2026 and were conducted behind closed doors. According to prosecutors, Igor Arta gathered information between February and August of 2022 on Russian opposition activists living in Poland, along with individuals and organizations that supported them. Investigators say he stored the information on an encrypted electronic device before giving it to his wife, Irina R., who allegedly was responsible for delivering the data to Russia's Federal Security Service. Prosecutors also accused Igor R. of participating in the shipment of a parcel containing explosive devices and nitroglycerin through a courier service in 2024. The package was intercepted at a warehouse before reaching its destination. The case marks another high-profile espionage prosecution as Poland continues to strengthen its counterintelligence efforts amid ongoing regional security concerns. This is J. Claude McDaniel for Streaming News Network. The Afghan national charged in last year's fatal shooting of a West Virginia National Guard member near the White House has been transferred from federal custody to a hospital after reportedly refusing food and water for an extended period. Federal prosecutors told the court that Ramanullah Lakanwal was hospitalized to preserve his life after officials with the United States Marshal Service warned that his refusal to eat or drink placed him at serious risk of long-term health complications and possible death. During an emergency court hearing, the presiding federal judge described the defendant's medical condition as both dire and self-inflicted. The court also ruled that prosecutors may access his medical records while he remains hospitalized. Lakanwal has pleaded not guilty to 17 federal charges, including first-degree murder, in connection with the November shooting that killed West Virginia National Guard Specialist Sarah Beckstrom and seriously wounded Guardsman Andrew Wolf. Investigators allege Lakanwal drove across the country from Washington state before opening fire on National Guard personnel near the White House. Authorities say he was subdued at the scene, and a stolen revolver was recovered. The criminal case remains pending as officials continue to monitor the defendant's medical condition. This is J. Claude McDaniel of Streaming News Network. A Kentucky man has been sentenced to life in prison after pleading guilty but mentally ill in the killing of his 74-year-old grandmother. 19-year-old Wyatt Testerman received a life sentence with the possibility of parole after serving at least 20 years. The sentence follows his guilty plea in the October 2024 death of Sherry Oliver. According to investigators, officers responded to Oliver's home after a family member called 911 to report that Testerman was acting violently. When police arrived, they found Oliver suffering from severe head injuries. She was pronounced dead at the scene, and Testerman was taken into custody without incident. During court proceedings, prosecutors said Testerman had been living with his grandmother after being released from the hospital following a drug overdose. Defense attorneys argued that he was experiencing drug-induced psychosis linked to continued use of lysergic acid diethylamide, commonly known as LSD, at the time of the attack. Prosecutors also presented video evidence that they say was recorded on the victim's cell phone during the assault. According to the prosecution, the recording showed Testerman striking his grandmother with a metal drinking tumbler. The case has now concluded with the life sentence, while the tragedy continues to impact the victim's family and community. This is J. Claude McDaniel with Streaming News Network. Authorities in Scarsdale, New York, have charged a 26-year-old man with second-degree murder in the death of his 71-year-old mother. Prosecutors allege that Chester Green killed his mother, Marion Green, inside their home sometime between July 5 and July 7. He was arraigned this week and ordered held without bail as the case moves forward. According to investigators, Marion Green was a longtime community volunteer and advocate for people with disabilities and special needs. Friends say she devoted years to helping her only son find direction in life following the death of his father, encouraging his interests and involving him in community activities. Those who knew the family described Chester Green as socially isolated and struggling with personal challenges. Some former classmates recalled troubling behavior during his youth, while others said they never expected the situation to end in violence. Authorities have not released a motive, and the allegations remain subject to the ongoing court process. Prosecutors continue to investigate the circumstances surrounding the fatal incident. The case has deeply affected the close-knit Scarsdale community, where officials say homicides have been extremely rare in recent years. This is J. Claude McDaniel with Streaming News Network. Television host and comedian Steve Harvey is mourning the loss of his father-in-law, James A. Bridges Sr., who passed away at the age of 91. In a heartfelt social media tribute, Harvey reflected on the influence his father-in-law had on his life, describing him as one of the finest men he had ever known. He praised Bridges for setting an example of faith, fatherhood, and devotion to family. Harvey's wife, Marjorie Harvey, publicly thanked her husband for his support during the difficult time, while thousands of fans shared messages of sympathy and encouragement for the family. The couple's daughter, Lori Harvey, also honored her grandfather in an emotional post, saying the week following his passing had been the hardest of her life. She expressed how deeply she missed him and closed her message by saying she looked forward to seeing him again one day. The Harvey family has received an outpouring of condolences from fans and friends as they remember the life and legacy of James A. Bridges Sr. This is J. Claude McDaniel with Streaming News Network. Irish authorities have released new findings in the murder investigation of New York native Jamie Carney, whose death has drawn international attention. A post-mortem examination concluded that the 43-year-old mother died from suffocation, despite also suffering multiple serious head injuries. Officials have not released additional details regarding the medical findings. Carney's body was discovered Tuesday morning in her home in Killarney by her 13-year-old daughter. Investigators have launched a homicide investigation and continue searching for 28-year-old Ahmad al-Saker, who has been identified as a person of interest in the case. Police believe he may have left Ireland in the early morning hours before Carney's body was found. Authorities are examining possible travel routes and coordinating with international contacts as they attempt to determine his whereabouts. Investigators also say the suspect had been a frequent visitor to the home, a factor they believe could complicate the interpretation of forensic evidence collected at the scene. Carney moved from Westchester County, New York, to Ireland in 2021 with her daughter. Family members remembered her as a compassionate humanitarian dedicated to helping others. The investigation remains active, and no criminal conviction has been made. Authorities continue to ask anyone with relevant information to contact law enforcement.
Thank you for listening to Streaming News Network videos and our short reports. Please like and subscribe to our news channel.